I've reached a point in a Japanese Grand Prix weekend where my focus has shifted dramatically from the tarmac of Suzuka to the internal landscape of the sport's most dominant force. Max Verstappen is now openly speculating about his own Formula One future, and the nature of his comments following a truly difficult qualifying session has sent shockwaves throughout the paddock. It's one thing for me to hear a driver vent after a bad session, it's quite another to witness what I heard him say on Saturday evening in Japan. I've spent years covering the sport, and I've become accustomed to the old Max, the one who reacts to a loss with visible fire, a sharp tongue, or a pointed critique of the car's balance. I've grown used to analyzing his unhappiness and what it might mean for the Red Bull hierarchy, but what I observed in the media coverage tonight was something fundamentally different. It was unusual, perhaps even unprecedented, and to hear Max speak with such a heavy sense of detachment, he didn't just say he was annoyed, he said he was beyond frustration. When a driver of his caliber says that he doesn't even know the right English word to describe his state of mind because he's simply frustrated isn't deep enough. I personally have to stop and listen. When he follows that up saying he has a lot of things to figure out personally and define those things simply as life, I'm clearly looking at a man who is mentally halfway out of the door. If we listen into the interview he gave, it becomes clear that these weren't throwaway remarks. Later in the Dutch media session, he went even more into detail, peeling back the layers of his current psyche. This wasn't the Max Verstappen who wants to smash a steering wheel because the DRS failed. This was a reflective, almost philosophical Max. Usually after a bad qualifying, I see a palpable energy coming off him, frustration that a lap was untidy, annoyance at a missed opportunity, or pretty much genuine anger at a mechanical failure. However, tonight, I saw none of that. Instead, there was a sense of somber reflection. It felt to me I was watching a man at a genuine crossroads. When he spoke about needing to make decisions about life and life here, he wasn't just talking about his setup in Sunday's race. He was reflecting on the direction of the sport, the state of the current regulations, and his own place within that ecosystem. While he didn't explicitly say I am quitting today, he also pointedly refused to say that he'd be here in 5 years. The subtext was deafening. He is weighing up the values of his time. For the last 18 months, I have been tracking the breadcrumbs of Max and he has been dropping. He's hinted that he won't be a lifer like Fernando Alonso or Lewis Hamilton. He's often spoke about how the joy of racing has to outweigh the grind of the travel and the politics. But tonight felt like the first time those hints turned into a tangible reality. It felt like the crossroads wasn't some distant point on the horizon. He's standing right in the center of it and looking at the signs. This shift in tone didn't happen in a vacuum. It came shortly after his father, Jos Verstappen, gave a revealing interview to the Dutch media expressing doubt on whether Max Verstappen could maintain the motivation to keep grinding in a car that isn't performing. When Max was asked about those comments, his answer was telling. He focused heavily on the concept of enjoyment. In the modern F1 calendar, with 24 races and a constant global travel, I believe the lifestyle is only sustainable if you love the act of driving the car. Max was very clear. He doesn't have that feeling right now. He looks fed up, he looks tired, and for a triple world champion who has achieved everything there is to achieve, I see the lack of joy as a terminal condition for a career. I'm not just talking about a driver who is having a bad day, I'm talking about a driver who is looking at the Q3 monitors during his own media interview and looking he'd rather be anywhere else. He wasn't even using the media to send a message to Red Bull to fix their car or I'm gone. He's thinking about his GT team, his family life, and his newborn child. He's looking at a version of Formula One that he simply does not like. There are two distinct pillars to Max's current dilemma as I see it. The first is pure competitiveness. He is a winner. Being eliminated in Q2 and out-qualified by Isaac Hadjar in a sister car is a bitter pill to swallow. He admitted in his press sessions tonight that he has no idea how long this midfield slump will last. The car is all over the place. Understeer one moment, snappy oversteer in the next. I watched them change the setup and it does nothing. They keep it the same and it behaves differently. That lack of technical direction is exhausting for a driver who prides himself on precision. But the second pillar is more structural. It's about the 2026 to 2027 regulations. Max has been a vocal critic of the direction F1 is taking. The heavy cars, the engine-dominated formulas, and the loss of pure racing. While other drivers like Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc seem to have been one won over by incremental changes proposed by the FIA, I see Max as a lone, stubborn voice of dissent. He doesn't want plasters on the problem. He wants a fundamental shift in philosophy. The reality of his contract is starting to exert pressure. I know that there are performance clauses. Last year he was safe because he was leading the championship. This year, the requirement is likely second place by the summer break, a target that looks increasingly impossible given Red Bull's current trajectory. If he misses the target, he has to make a formal decision by October. This isn't a theoretical discussion anymore. It's a contractual timeline and we're watching it unfold. I believe we are moving into a more unique part of the season. After Miami, there is a significant gap in the calendar. This is precisely the time when a driver who is feeling beyond frustrated takes stock. Max Verstappen will be at the Nürburgring with his GT team doing something that, as he puts it, puts a big smile on his face. When I compare the joy he finds in his private racing projects to the super clipping and energy management grind of modern Formula 1 at Suzuka, the contrast is stark. He is a purist. He wants to race wheel to wheel without worrying about an 8 megajoule recharge limit. He wants a car that rewards bravery and not one that requires him to harvest for half a lap. If the technical meeting on April 9th doesn't produce a roadmap for 2027 that genuinely excites him, I suspect he will reach the end of his career and simply say, "I'm done." I know that he is also loyal to Red Bull, and I don't think he'd walk out mid-season and leave them behind a lurch. But he is also a man of extremes. He is either 100% committed or he is out. He doesn't do half measures. If he doesn't believe in the project, he won't fake it for a paycheck. One of the most fascinating aspects of this situation that I've been contemplating is the paradox of his loyalty. Max is not a mercenary. He has grown up within the Red Bull family, and his ties to Helmut Marko and the core engineering team are deep-seated. I've often observed that he feels a profound sense of responsibility for the thousands of employees at Milton Keynes. This makes a sudden, dramatic exit difficult to envision. He wouldn't want to be the reason the team collapses into the midfield indefinitely. However, I've also noticed that this loyalty is being tested by the internal political fractures that have plagued the team over the last year. If the environment that fostered his success has become more toxic or overly corporate, the loyalty he feels is no longer to the institution but to a memory of what the institution used to be. I believe he's currently weighing whether staying to save the team is worth the personal toll it takes to his mental health. I've seen drivers in this position before, but never one so young and so successful. Usually, the slow fade happens in a driver's late 30s. To see it happening to a man in his prime suggests that this problem isn't Max's age, but the sport itself. If F1 loses its most talented practitioner because the regulations have made the act of driving unfun, then the sport has a much larger crisis on its hands than just a vacant seat in Red Bull. Finally, I have to consider the vacuum a Max Verstappen exit would create. If I look at the current grid, there is no one who embodies the raw, uncompromising spirit of racing quite like him. His departure wouldn't just be a loss of a fast driver, it would be a loss of sports identity. F1 has marketed itself on the back of his dominance and his outspoken nature. Without him, the narrative shifts toward a more sanitized, corporate-driven spectacle, the very thing he seems to despise. I wonder if the FIA realizes that by losing Max, they lose the purest metric of their regulation success. If the best driver in the world finds your sport boring, then your sport has failed and its primary objective. I've been thinking about what a post-Max paddock looks like. It's a place where the focus shifts entirely to entertainment over a sport, where the technical mastery of a driver is secondary to the management of software. To me, that sounds like exactly the kind of environment Max is ready to leave behind. The annoyance he feels towards the current regulation isn't just a whim, it's a fundamental clash of values which I have identified through watching his career. He cares about the sport, which is why he's so outspoken. But if the sport doesn't care about the things he values, like late cars, mechanical mechanical grip and engine purity, then I believe Max might just decide that life is better elsewhere. I'm watching the beginning of an end of an era, and from my vantage point, it's happening much faster than any of us expected. And again, if you're new here, then I would recommend for you to subscribe. This is a very fairly new channel, and we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers.